All right, so yeah, today we're going to talk about some ethical considerations as we wrap up the semester. Um, and so yeah, let's, I think what I'd like to do actually, this might be more fun, get a little participation too. Let me share my iPad. And what I would like for you to do is, I'll show you how I analyze a lot of cases. And you'll use this going forward with many of your case study classes, my log class, for example, if you ever want to take that. We do a similar analysis outline. And so to start off, I want to start kind of right here with facts. So anybody just kind of tell me, what are the facts? Like, don't go into opinions, don't go into like analyzing anything yet. Just what are the facts of that part one, that part A that you read about Hailey and her ethical issue? Let's just leave it at that.
I guess that she turned in the assignment late is a fact.
Yeah, okay, so she turned in a late assignment.
The assignment was completed.
So it was complete before the due date, right? And that's important. So I'm just
She did receive a text.
Say that again.
She did receive a text.
Yeah, text from family member, dad and brother. All right. What else?
It was a group project.
Yes, that's important. You'll see why. Okay. All right. Other key facts that you picked out?
She volunteered to turn it in.
Yeah, so she was gonna turn in this group project. And did she? So she didn't do it on time. And then we've got the email to her professor. Oops. All right, I'm too low to like write anymore. Email to professor. All right, we'll get into that email. So yeah, with well, let me ask you, instead of talking about the email right away, let's talk about kind of your opinions on what Hailey did. So yeah, now that we've got kind of the basic fact pattern, we're missing a couple things, but we've got the basic fact pattern here. What's your opinion on what she did? What's your analysis of this, and how do you go about kind of piecing this together in your own mind? So again, let's go back to the second column. Well, let's go to the second column now. Any thoughts on this? Anybody want to just one or two words about what she did?
Something I find a little odd about this is, especially group projects, I get nervous about something not being right with it, and then you're due to turn it in. So I'm actually really surprised that she planned on turning it in just an hour before. I would have turned it in the night before if it was due at 1 in the afternoon.
Okay, so everybody in this class right now wants Jonathan on their next team so that nothing like this ever happens. Good call, Jonathan. Yeah, Hailey is a procrastinator, and yeah, part of it probably goes back to what you were talking about, Jonathan, like nervous about it, wanting to double check everything. That might be why she was waiting so long, but again, just get it in if that's your job. All right, good point. Others?
I would say, I think one of the words I would use, honestly, is just understandable. I feel like all of us would it's easy to say, like, why would she do that? Why would she procrastinate? But how often do we procrastinate? How often are we kind of in the same dumb little type of boat, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Like, not just judge her, but just like, it's understandable.
Yeah, and I think her reaction and her subsequent actions are understandable too. So yeah, great, Brennan. That's an awesome point. Anybody else want to kind of build on that or talk about something there?
For me, it was like, why would she lie about the accident actually happening when it's understandable that if they were in a near miss accident, that would still like kind of like offset you. So I don't understand why she lied about the accident actually happening when it would have been fine to say I was like shaken up by the accident almost happening.
Yeah. So yeah, awesome point, right? And some of you are like, as you were reading this, you were probably like, Hailey, don't do. Oh, she's gonna do it. Like, right. You're kind of following along, like, darn it. And yet, I kind of always go back to this too. Like, if any of you have been in that situation where you've realized that you've made a mistake, at least for me, and I imagine many of you, but I could be wrong. There's like this initial like horrific response, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. And this is with me, not with necessarily any situation like this. I don't know that I've ever turned in something late like this, but I could imagine that if I did, the horror of that realization would hit me. And then I think at that point, sometimes you kind of lose your cognitive ability and rational thought. And maybe that's what makes it understandable here again to me is like sometimes you just don't have your wits about you when you realize you've made a mistake, and maybe that's what happened. But yeah, like was said, we've still got to lie here, and that's important. Other thoughts? All right. Yeah, and with this understandable, sometimes I'm gonna take maybe some creative liberties here, but sometimes I've had students say like, look, it was just a mistake, Brother Hales, like, get off her back, it was just a mistake. And so I get it, because of the understandable nature of the issue. You've got this dichotomy between a lie and a mistake. And so with that, I want to do something kind of fun. Normally, like when I'm in class with students, I'll have the students that want to classify this as a lie go to one end of the classroom, and the students that want to classify it as like a mistake or an understandable mistake, they'll move to the other side, and then we fight. Just kidding. Then we talk about it, and so today we can't necessarily do that, but I do have the ability to launch a poll. So go ahead and take this poll. You got to choose one, all right? Like for simplicity's sake, I know there's some gray area here, but I want you just to go ahead and pick one of these. How would you classify what Hailey did?
For the sake of argument, did she catch her error in the email? Like, did she know about that or no?
She knew what she was doing. Yep.
She knew. Okay.
Yep. And while you're filling this out, just so you know, this is a true story. So this is the TA for one of the other teachers of Business 100. So she was pretty brave kind of airing this out. And I think Hailey is her real name too. So it's not like, yeah, she was cool with this, by the way. So I'm not throwing anybody at BYU Idaho named Hailey under the bus. Actually, I did hear she graduated. So, all right. So let me show you what we've got here. All right. So 3 of you haven't voted. They're probably using the restroom or something. So let's just go ahead and end that poll, and I'll share this with you. So we've got 83% of you are going to call this a lie, and 18% are going to call this something else, a mistake, and just an understandable issue, etc. So, and this is Actually, usually it's a little bit more split. Maybe I did a bad job of like making the case for the mistake, understandable issue. Anyway, but I'm curious. Let's start with the most common one is I wanted to call you call this a lie, and that's understandable. It technically was. So give me your thoughts on that. Why did you go with that as opposed to just something else?
So I think it becomes a lie if she doesn't take the initiative to fix it. Because if this was a misunderstanding that I did and I caught it, I would quickly put my cards on the table and be like, okay, look, this almost happened. It didn't actually happen. I just want to clarify that. So if she doesn't take the initiative to do that, then it's a lie in my book.
Yeah, good. Anybody else want to jump in with their thoughts about why it's a lie? You're like, Brother Hills, it's a lie by definition. So, yeah. Okay, I get it. But 7 of you said it's something else. And talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I mean, in the reading, it kind of made it seem like she like sent the email, and after that she sent the email, she kind of realized the mistake. Is that's kind of from like my interpretation. So it seemed like more of like a mistake, and then she caught it later than like an initial lie when you like intentionally do something. So it's kind of a little bit of gray area, but it seems more of like a mistake, I guess.
Yeah. And that makes sense for kind of the reasons that we were talking about before. Maybe she wasn't totally completely recovered yet from the shock of that text, and again there was some confusion initially anyway. So yeah, I think that's a great insight, and especially kind of bringing out that there's a for so much, and I'll just tell you, like, for so much of my life I thought everything was black and white, and then I became a lawyer or just entered the real world or something and started realizing that there's like a myriad of shades between that black and white, and I think that this fits well into that category, because did Hailey do something wrong? Yes, but do we have logical and rational ways to look at this, like lenses with which we can look at this situation and say, yeah, it's not totally black and white, that there's some issues here, and Carter brought that out. Absolutely. So okay, so I'm going to share with you what happened after this. All right, so you only read part A. So in part B, I think you'll get a little bit more information that will help you understand what's going on here. So here's part B, and I'll read it to you just in case it's too small to read. And so we're jumping ahead 6 months into the future. So a painstaking 6 months had passed. Hailey had done well in her internship over the break, but was anxious in going back to school. She felt that she couldn't attend the temple and knew that she had to email a professor and contact her group members to confess what she had done. The first day of winter semester, the next year, she sent the following email. So she writes to Professor Brown again. It says, I'm emailing you in regards to the final and apologizing. I'm motivated to do this from both the spirit, speaking to my heart, and because of a video of Esther I watched on Sunday. Surely if Esther can face death, to profess that. All right, it's a little dramatic, okay, but stay with me. If Esther can face death to profess the truth and save her people, then I can face you and profess the truth and save myself. An excuse as to why I submitted the final assignment was a lie. The reality is I was in my propaganda class and had my laptop away to respect the professor. I promptly emailed you the assignment after the class was completed and thought that the above was not a good enough excuse as to why I was late. I received a text from my younger brother during that class about how my father and him were an angel's hair away from getting into a terrible accident. An angel's hair away, by the way, I haven't heard this phrase. It just means narrowly missed. On their way home from Colorado, I took this information and over-exaggerated it, thinking that it would better excuse as to why the assignment was late. I apologize greatly for this. You were nothing but kind, and it's tormented me ever since, and blah, blah, blah. Well, not blah, blah, blah. I don't mean to like minimize this. As President Nelson said this morning, keep to the covenant path, and I'm trying to return. I love the Lord, and I love my Father in heaven, and I wish, and I will strive to not let this weakness get in the way of me returning to live with them again. Hailey. All right, and then after this, she sends a text. She lets the other group members know, and basically apologizing, telling them that if they have to repeat the class, it's, you know, she feels horrible for that. But of course, Professor Brown, like I'm sure 99.9, maybe 99.8% of all professors at BYU Idaho got this and was not going to like allow this to injure the rest of the group. And even her kind of worked with Hailey. In the end, this all worked out is how Hailey describes it. She was able to get the points. I think she took some deductions, but overall, this was a good lesson for her. And later, by the way, Hailey does recount this, that later on, she had a very similar experience happen. Again, plug not to be a procrastinator, but this happened again. And instead of trying to come up with an excuse, she remembered this experience and used it as just a way to do what's right, and was very honest and upfront with her professor. Then again, that second time it happened, when she wrote the professor, that professor was like, no, I get it, things like that happen, and took it without deducting any points. She didn't even have to, just like Professor Brown would have done. Sometimes we lie and we do things that put our soul at risk, our integrity at risk, when we didn't even need to. Like, most people are very understanding. Now, some of you are like, well, Brother Hales, you haven't met Brother so-and-so or whoever. I'm sure that they're out there. But the professors that I interact with at BYU Idaho and other schools too, they're so accommodating and just want to help. That's why they're teachers. Now, you always get that person that should have retired or like chose the wrong profession. But typically, like I have to really like think hard about who those people are, and I work with these people. So, and by the way, if this ever happens and you do what's right and your professor is unaccommodating, and you just need some help, like, I'll back you up. Okay, you can email me and I'll go talk to that teacher and tell them to knock it off. They probably just got angry that morning or like forgot breakfast or something. Oftentimes it's something simple, right? So anyway, that's how this one ended. And again, any thoughts now as now that you see the whole picture with Hailey, any insight that you have into her situation or application to your own education?
Actually, quick question. Was she a student where she was afraid to fail the class, or was she just afraid of not getting an A? Do we have that information?
Yeah, so the professor, that's an awesome question, because it's important to like bring this up. The professor had on the syllabus a very strict no late work policy. Now, and that's what scared her, right? And I get this because I've got the same thing in all of my classes. The syllabus is a way for us to set kind of firm rules. And yet, are we willing to work with you when something comes up? Absolutely. Like, here's the secret. I'm going to tell you this now at the end of the semester, and not at the beginning. I put that just to kind of scare you a little bit, to get stuff in. Because if I don't, like, I'll have 500 exception requests throughout the semester. So I always say, like, yeah, 100, like, I'm putting my foot down and better be in. Whereas you and I both, like, you know me now, and you know I'm not going to, like, throw you under the bus or whatever if you come up a day late with an excuse. And the excuse doesn't have to be somebody almost dying or being in an accident. The excuse could be like one that I take and that other teachers will take too is, you know, Brother Hales, I was on a date. I'm just trying to get married. and make it to the celestial kingdom, or like whatever joke you want to like say right there. And I'm going to be like, oh, cool, you were on a date. Like, I know the stats, like college kids aren't dating as much as they used to. So if you tell me you're dating, I'm going to be like, all right, like give you a virtual high five or something. And yeah, I'm looking out for your eternal salvation or something. Anyway, and happiness and just that social aspect, that's a good enough excuse for me. So again, yeah, but that's what she was worried about, was the no late work policy on the syllabus, which is making me like rethink my syllabus. I don't want to open it up to having every assignment be late, because you know that you're like Hailey, a lot of you in this class, and you procrastinate things. It's something like 87% of students procrastinate. It may be more than that. I just made that number up. But yeah, like just get stuff in. But if you don't have to lie, because professors are people too. Like, we went to college, and I remember this same thing happening. So yeah, good point, Jonathan. And anybody else have any questions or comments about this?
So what I had written to that thing, like I had said, like understandable, just in the aspect of, as I read it, I was like, I've definitely been in the position. We all have when we forgot. Heck, this semester I emailed Savannah when like some had funky had gone to submission, and she had helped me get through it. And so that's kind of what I was thinking. But as we're talking about ethics, like obviously religion plays a huge role, and we're here at BYUI. And so it's just that understanding that, like, God will bless you for the honesty. She had a lot of worries that honor code or whatever it would be, but just the understanding of, if I'm doing what's right, if I'm being honest, God will reward me for that. And maybe things will be a little hard for a little bit, but in the end, the blessings from God are way greater than what we can have here. And just with that understanding, it makes the decision to make a lot easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's a great springboard into kind of what I like, an experience that I like to tell you as I wrap things up. When I was in your position, when I was an undergrad, and especially a new undergrad, I remember thinking like, ethics, that's easy. Like that, I'm never even going to have to worry about that. And I went into law and business and corporate law and corporate transactions. And I can tell you right now, like, you may think this isn't going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue for everybody. And it's not just the accountants of Enron, right? Like it's big businesses, it's small businesses. I'm getting texts and emails from local businesses right now about the government small business loans that are available. And they're asking if they can do things that, like, it's obvious they know that it isn't right, but they're just hoping to find a lawyer that will give them, I don't know, some peace of mind or just rationalization for bad choices. And so again, it runs the spectrum of businesses, of size of businesses, of geography. It happens here. It happens in New York City. And so I saw this many times in my career. And one of those times meant that I had to leave a position that I loved and that I wanted to stay at. And yet, and this is scary, right? Like, I want you to put yourself in the future and imagine this. I was new, just out of grad school, and leaving where I was and standing up and making a choice to, like, to do what not only what was right, but what was morally ethical and legally ethical. Like there was a lot involved here. And with that, getting pressure from my boss, who, remember, like, paid my salary to do something that I knew wasn't right. That's hard. And it's harder when I go back in time and I remember, like, I was young. I had 2 tiny little kids in a new city. Like, all of this was very difficult. And the choice that I ended up making meant that like one, I had to leave that job. I had to leave that geographic area. And that can be very difficult. But here's my promise to you. And you'll get this lesson throughout BYU Idaho. If you choose now to make the right choice, you can learn from Hailey right now, and you never have to go through the 6 months of pain that she had to go through. But also going forward, if you make that decision now, times will be tough, but I want to promise you that you will be blessed and protected. Heavenly Father will protect you, just as happened to me. Like once I kind of threw myself off, like in a right decision, and all of the economic consequences that were going to follow, I was picked up immediately. And I don't say this lightly. I felt the hand of the Lord protect me and my family. And I feel that it was because I made a difficult ethical choice to do that. But that doesn't mean you're not going to be scared in the future. And I'm not saying you're going to have to like quit your jobs and lose your jobs or whatever. Oftentimes when you make the right choice at work, you'll be rewarded for that fairly quickly, even despite some maybe disapproving looks from your direct supervisor or something. Like oftentimes you're not going to lose your job. But if you do, then Heavenly Father will bless you. And I can testify of this because I've seen it happen in my life and the lives of others in my family. But here's a secondary promise. If it doesn't work out, if because of your righteous decision, your ethical decision to do what's right, you lose your job and you become homeless. And by the way, this promise I've passed off with my wife already. You can come live, like you'll have a place to live. Like you can show up to my door and say, Brother Hales, I lost everything because I made the right decision. And I'm going to say, come on in, like, and let's go get righteous slice or something. Like I promise I will take care of you. And I like I said, I got the approval from Laura to say this because she and I both know that you're going to be okay. You will have family and friends and those on the other side of the veil that will protect you through all of this, and you'll be happy and you'll be able to sleep at night, because I can't tell you how many good people that I know that have lost everything when they lost their integrity as well. And so I just want to, I want to be able to just look you in the virtual eye right now and let you know that you'll be okay. But choose now that you'll learn the lesson from Hailey and not make this mistake and others. Because once you start justifying one thing, you've heard this, it becomes simple and almost necessary to start justifying other issues until you've dug yourself into a hole that's very difficult to get out of. So I'll end with that and let you know that it's been great. It's been super weird doing classes like this, but at the same time, I'm really happy that you have been accommodating and able to kind of work through difficult circumstances and still get your work in and participate and help others. I'm just really impressed. And so this kind of adaptability is also great career prep because it's not just schools that are having to do this. It's businesses as well. So being able to put on your resume that you made it through the coronavirus quarantines in school and still succeeded in your classes, that's going to be great. And so use that. Let me know if there's anything that I can do for you. Everything's due this week, so just get that in. If you need extra time for something that you missed, like let me know and I'll help you. We can't because grades are due here fairly quickly. I can't give you like beyond this weekend. But just get all that stuff in. So I've got some questions coming in. There's not a final. Like, I get to deliver good news to you right now. If anybody thinks there's a final, there isn't. So you're welcome. And some nice comments. And those workshops are about an hour for Caden. All right.